Hey everybody, welcome to the video. I'm going to apologize beforehand, but during the video I'm going to have to pull over and fill up on some gas. So there's a slight pause partway through the video. That's what I'm doing. Anyways, there's one reason why I'm actually making this video. As you can see in the title, it has to do with why I do cemetery stuff. I've been asked this question a few times actually by people I work with. It's not a freaky thing or a weird thing or anything like that. I'm not obsessed with dead or anything like that. Or I'm not obsessed with death, I'm sorry. But the reason why I do the cemetery thing is because I love history. American history in particular, and I think cemeteries are a good place to go visit historical places if you want to know the history. I mean, what I mean by that is because, of course, there's places here in America, buildings, assembly halls or whatever, where historical events occurred. But my interest is more like where or who was part of that historical event, like who was there, and going to visit them. Sorry about that. And since I live here in Utah, Mormonism plays a huge role in everyday life here. So that's why I do the Salt Lake Cemetery. There's a lot of famous LDS celebrities there that everybody knows of and heard of, people I've heard of throughout my entire life. Many of them are buried there, and I'd go there and go visit them. But basically, the main reason why I like to go to that cemetery is because I love history. And just like I said a few minutes ago, or about a minute ago, the church plays a huge role in everyday life here in Utah. Salt Lake City is a huge LDS settlement. People don't realize this, but there are other places here on the West Coast, or western side of the states, that are also Mormon settlements. Like, for example, Las Vegas, Nevada. No one knows that was originally a Mormon settlement, as well as parts of Idaho, Mesa, Arizona, which my ancestors have to do with. George W. Sarine I think he's my 4 to 6 times great grandfather, one of the two. And he actually got sent down from Idaho by Brigham Young. Everybody knows Brigham Young, whether you're inside or outside of the church. Everybody knows who he is. Sent him down from Idaho down into the present-day Phoenix Mesa area back in 1876. And you can imagine being in the desert, especially in Arizona, 125 degrees summer heat with no air conditioning. Anyways, that's and also San Bernardino, California. My same ancestor had something to do with that settlement as well. But many of these historical figures in the church are actually buried back are here in the Salt Lake Cemetery, and I go to visit them just to help remember them, remember who they are, what they've done. So that's why I do cemeteries. Anyways, I hope the video didn't bore you too much, and I hope you enjoyed it. Well, there's one little tidbit I forgot to mention when I was recording my last clip, and a lot of people ask me like how I got started with it, like what got me interested in it. Well, the first, I guess you could say first famous grave I ever got to visit was when I was younger, when my dad was stationed in Germany. The second time for me. Well, rumor has it, there was this one time when my dad was stationed in Germany. I think this was about 1993. So, just over 20 years ago. Where me and our family and my grandparents, we went on a family vacation to Austria. Austria wasn't too far. If I can remember, it was like 5 hours away from where we were living. 5 or 6 hour drive from where we were living. I can't exactly remember driving distance at the time, since it's been 20 plus years. Anyways, we were there, and the very first grave I remember going to search out with my dad was the gravestone for Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, the famous musician, the one who wrote all those awesome pieces of music. Anyways, well, from what I've heard, that wasn't his actual grave. He's not actually buried there. I learned this little tidbit when I was actually on my mission in Germany from this guy who was part of a Mozart club. He said that his birth house was the real place. That's where he was really born, which I also visited. But for some reason, his burial place, where his quote-unquote grave marker is not his real place of burial. But rather, he's buried somewhere else in Austria, even in a different cemetery. And the marker that they have in that cemetery was actually a marker for the family of Wolfgang Mozart. But either way, at the time when I was a kid, when I actually went to go visit that gravesite, I thought it was one of the coolest things ever, you know. Another thing that also piqued my interest is that when I was actually on my mission, on my LDS church mission, I served in Germany, pretty much in the same area where I grew up. My first area was in the city of Aachen, which is near the German, Belgian, and Dutch or Holland borders. And Charlemagne actually ruled from the cathedral that's there in the city for his entire reign. And he's buried there. He's not really buried, but his coffin is there on display. And that was, I guess you could say that was basically the second famous grave I've ever visited and everything. And that definitely piqued my interest with historical stuff. And now that I live in Utah, I grew up in Seattle, or just outside of Seattle. Now, I mean, Utah, you can visit all these graves, all these famous people from like Utah, like the LDS Church and stuff like that. And also, there's a few other people that are buried there that are famous, like for example, Lester Farnsworth Wire, who was actually the one who put the patent on the electric stoplights that we use every day across the world. And also, well, I guess you can say he's a Utah native. Larry H. Miller, he owned the Utah Jazz basketball team. His family did, and his family actually still owns it. But yeah, anyways, that's what got me into doing the cemetery stuff.